I'm Lucas Green. I'm from Franklin Park, New Jersey, and right now my major is undecided. So I got involved in Adam's study my freshman year, first semester, and it was basically just Adam's been our academic liaison for the basketball team. I'm part of the basketball team, and all the guys recommended it, said that they had a great experience in it, so I decided to give it a shot. When I first started, I was conducting interviews, which basically was just, I knew a bunch of friends back home who went to all boys schools, and basically I just reached out to them and tried to get as many of them as possible to participate in the studies. Most of this was still during a iffy time with COVID and everything, so most of the interviews either took place over FaceTime or regular phone call. So I kind of touched on how I met my interviewees, but the interview process was really just talking about their day-to-day life in these spaces, kind of fleshing out some underlying themes that you wouldn't see unless you were actually in it every day. So talking about things like athlete, non-athlete divides, the transition to co-ed spaces, if there was racial divides, how did those take place? Also talked about things like sex education. A lot of these schools were Catholic schools, and so they just kind of strayed away, and those were some kind of interesting underlying themes that you don't necessarily get just looking at the school's website. So again, just having friends who were in these spaces, I heard a lot about it prior to being in the study, but I was really interested on the nuance of what things like the athlete, non-athlete divide look like. Most of my friends were athletes, so I didn't really get the other side of that. As well as the racial divide, I had heard some things about that, but I didn't realize how prevalent and widespread it was. It wasn't just a one school thing, it really happens in multiple different spaces. I feel like most students were easily forthcoming. It definitely helped that most of them were my friends prior to the interview. But with some people who are kind of on the fence, you have to make them feel comfortable, assure them that nothing that they could say would be anything incriminating. It's genuinely just about their experience, and everything that sounds like it could be bad is in reality useful data for the experience. So my very first interview was one of my best friends, and he told me that in his sophomore year of high school, it was 2016, and the day that Donald Trump got elected president, a bunch of the kids showed up to the cafeteria during like a free period and more or less formed like a Trump rally in the cafeteria. I mean, standing on tables, banging on tables, Trump, the whole nine. Also had Make America Great Again hats on in a Catholic school where you're not even allowed to wear hats, you're not allowed to wear your facial hair any longer than they mandate. And so they kind of just like broke all the rules for this and went all out, and there were really no repercussions for that. So that was really surprising to me. So I would say just being in co-ed spaces my whole life, you don't really realize the other side of it, where if you're not in a co-ed space, there are many things that go unchecked. There are many things that are just inherently very different from your educational experience, and those play real roles in molding people into who they become. And so when you're not really a part of it, you don't understand it, or you don't even really think about it because you're not exposed to it. So that definitely caught me by surprise and made me realize that in my educational experiences, I was in checked spaces. When you're with women, there are just certain things that, like the participants had said, you just can't do certain things when you're in co-ed spaces.